Preponderating influence of religious ideas. They have always constituted the most important elements of the life of peoples. Religious ideas responsible for the majority of historical events and social and political institutions. A new civilization always comes into existence with a new religious idea. Power of the religious ideal, its influence on character. It directs all the faculties towards the same end. The political, artistic, and literary history of peoples is the offspring of their beliefs. The slightest change in the state of a people's belief results in an entire series of transformations in its existence. Various examples. Among the various ideas by which the peoples have been guided, the ideas which are the beacons of history, the poles of civilization, religious ideas have played too preponderating and too fundamental a part for us not to devote a special chapter to them. Religious beliefs have always constituted the most important element of the life of peoples, and in consequence of their history, the most considerable historical events, those which have had the most colossal influence, have been the birth and death of gods. With a new religious idea, a new civilization is born into the world. At all the ages of humanity, in ancient times as in modern times, the fundamental questions have always been religious questions. If humanity could allow all its gods to die, it might be said of such an event that, as regards its consequences, it would be the most important event that had taken place on the surface of our planet since the birth of the first civilizations. For it must not be forgotten that, since the dawn of historical times, all political and social institutions have been founded on religious beliefs, and that the gods have always played the first role on the world's stage. Apart from love, which itself is a powerful but personal and transitory religion, it is only religious beliefs that are capable of influencing character in a rapid manner. The conquests of the Arabs, the Crusades, Spain under the Inquisition, England during the Puritan period, France with its St. Bartholomew, and the wars of the Revolution show what becomes of a people rendered fanatic by its chimeras. These chimeras exercise a sort of permanent hypnotic effect, which is so intense that it profoundly transforms the entire mental constitution. Doubtless it is man who created the gods, but after having created them, he promptly became their slave. They are not the offspring of fear, as Lucretius affirms, but of hope, and for this reason their influence will be eternal. The gift of the gods to man, and it is a gift which they alone have been able to endow him with up to now, is a state of mind which allows of happiness. No philosophy has ever been able as yet to realize such an achievement. The consequence, if not the aim, of all civilizations, of all philosophies, of all religions, is to engender certain states of mind. But of these states of mind, some imply happiness while the others do not. Happiness depends very little on exterior circumstances and to a very great extent on our disposition of spirit. The martyrs at the stake were probably much happier than their executioners. The street sweeper who, devoid of care, eats his crust of bread rubbed with garlic may be infinitely happier than the millionaire who is a prey to manifold anxieties. The evolution of civilization has unhappily created for the modern man a multitude of wants without giving him the means of satisfying them, and in this way has promoted general discontent. Civilization is doubtless the mother of progress, but it is the mother as well of socialism and anarchism, those redoubtable expressions of the despair of the masses that are no longer sustained by any belief. Compare the restless, feverish European discontented with his lot, with the Oriental always satisfied with his destiny. In what do they differ, if not as regards the state of their soul? A people has been transformed when its mode of conceiving and, in consequence of thinking and acting, has been transformed. Under penalty of being unable to last for long, the primary duty of a society is to endeavor to find the means of creating a state of mind which shall render man happy. All the societies founded up to the present have had as their basis an ideal capable of subjugating men's souls, and they have always disappeared as soon as this ideal has ceased to subjugate them. One of the great errors of modern times is the belief that it is only in exterior things that the human soul can find happiness. Happiness is within us, created by ourselves, and scarcely ever outside ourselves. After having destroyed the ideals of past ages, we are now finding that it is not possible to live without them, and that the secret of replacing them must be discovered if we would continue to exist. The true benefactors of humanity, those who merit colossal statues in gold raised in their honor by grateful peoples, are those powerful magicians, the creators of ideals, whom humanity sometimes produces, but whom it produces so rarely. Above the torrent of vain appearances, standing forth the only realities man can ever know, above the inexorable, the glacial mechanism of the world, they have evoked powerful and pacifying chimeras, which hide from man the somber ideas of his destiny, and create for him enchanted refuges of dreams and hope. From the exclusively political standpoint, too, it is found that the influence of religious beliefs is immense. What makes their irresistible force is that they constitute the only factor which can momentarily procure a people absolute community of interests, sentiments, and thoughts. In this way, the religious spirit replaces at one stroke the low hereditary accumulation necessary to form the soul of a nation. The people that is subjected by a belief does not doubtless change its mental constitution, but all its faculties are directed towards the same end, the triumph of its belief, and solely in virtue of this fact its strength becomes formidable. It is at epochs of ardent faith that peoples momentarily transformed accomplish those prodigious efforts, found those empires which are the astonishment of history. It was thus that a few Arab tribes, unified by the thought of Muhammad, conquered in a few years nations who ignored their very names and founded their immense empire. It is not the quality of the beliefs that must be taken into consideration, but the sway they exert over men's souls. Whether the god invoked be Moloch or some other yet more barbarous divinity is of no importance. It is even well for the prestige of the divinity that it should be wholly intolerant and barbarous. Gods too tolerant or too mild lend their worshippers no strength. The sectaries of the stern Muhammad ruled for long over a great portion of the world and are still redoubtable. Those of Pacific Buddha have never founded anything durable and are already forgotten by history. The religious spirit then has played a political role of capital importance in the existence of peoples, because it was always the only factor capable of influencing their character in a short space of time. The gods, no doubt, are not immortal, but the religious spirit is eternal. It may slumber for a while, but it awakes as soon as a new divinity is created. A century ago, it enabled France to resist victoriously the onslaughts of all Europe up in arms. Once more the world has had the spectacle of what may be accomplished by the religious spirit, for it was indeed a new religion that was founded at the period in question, and that inspired an entire people. The divinities that blossomed forth were doubtless too fragile to last, but so long as they lasted, they exerted absolute sway. The power of transforming souls possessed by religions is, however, somewhat ephemeral. It is rare for beliefs to retain for any length of time that degree of intensity which entirely transforms character. The dream ends by growing more shadowy. The hypnotized people awakes in a measure, and the old substratum of character again comes to the front. Even in cases where the beliefs are all-powerful, the national character is always recognizable in the manner in which these beliefs are adopted and in the manifestations they provoke. What differences there are between the same belief as found in England, Spain, or France. Would the Reformation ever have been possible in Spain, or would England ever have consented to submit to the terrible yoke of the Inquisition? Among the peoples who have adopted the Reformed faith, is it not easy to perceive the fundamental characteristics of races which, in spite of the hypnotizing action of their beliefs, have preserved the special features of their mental constitution: independence, energy, the habit of reasoning, and of not obeying servilely the law of a master? The political, artistic, and literary history of peoples is the offspring of their beliefs, but these latter, while they modify the character, are also profoundly modified by it. The character of a people and its beliefs are the keys of its destiny. The former, as regards its fundamental elements, is invariable, and it is precisely because it does not vary that the history of a people always retains a certain unity. The beliefs, on the other hand, may vary, and it is because they vary that history records so many upheavals. The slightest change in the state of a people's beliefs necessarily results in an entire series of transformations in its existence. We remarked in a previous chapter that in France, the men of the 18th century seemed very different from those of the 17th century. Doubtless, but what was the origin of this difference? Solely the fact that in the lapse of a century, theology had given way to science. Reason had taken the place of tradition, and observed truth that of revealed truth. By this simple change of conceptions, the aspect of a century is transformed, and were we to follow its effects, we should find that our great revolution, together with the events that have since occurred and are still in progress, are the mere consequence of an evolution of religious ideas. Moreover, if at the present day our old society totters on its foundations and finds all its institutions profoundly shaken, the reason is that it is losing more and more the beliefs on which it had existed up till now. When it shall have lost them entirely, a new civilization, founded on a new faith, will necessarily take its place. History shows us that people do not long survive the disappearance of their gods. The civilizations that are born with them also die with them. There is nothing so destructive as the dust of dead gods.